Hello everyone, I'm Rajni Jain from JNV Sirohi. Today we shall study a poem of class 10th in English, which is from First Flight book. This is our next poem, poem number 3. The name of the poem is A Tiger in the Zoo, which is written by Leslie Norris. First of all, let's talk about the poet of this poem. The name of the poet is George Leslie Norris. He was born in 1921 and passed away in 2006. He was a prize-winning Welsh poet and short story writer. His literary works have won many prizes. His famous works are Finding Gold, The Loud Winder, Phoenix Living Poets series Ransoms, and Holy Places, etc. Here in this slide, you can see a geographical image of an island given on the right corner. The green portion represents Wales Island. This place is adjacent to England. It is very close to England. This is the place where Leslie Norris, the poet of this poem, was born. Well, here in this slide, I have given you the detailed summary of the poem. Let's come to know what the poem is all about. In this poem, we have been given a contrasting picture of a tiger that lives in a zoo with the tiger living in his natural habitat, that is forest. The poem moves from zoo to the forest and back again to the zoo. The encaged tiger feels powerless and helpless, whereas the tiger in the forest enjoys his freedom and lives his life the way he wants. He attacks on his prey and makes the villagers feel afraid by snarling. On the other hand, the tiger in the zoo is not happy at all. He longs for freedom. The caged life has totally changed the tiger's personality. The poet is trying to say that the animal, which is famous for its fearlessness and freedom, is confined and sad due to human beings because they have captured him and kept him in a cage for their entertainment. Well, in this slide, we can see two contrasting images. In the first image, the tiger is in the zoo, whereas in the second image, the tiger is moving freely in the forest. Both the pictures bring out a contrast in our mind, and the same thing is being discussed here in this poem. Well, here is your first stanza. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage, on pets of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. So first of all, let's see the word meanings. Stalks. Stalks here means move slowly or to move quietly with pride. As it has been given in the picture, you can see how the tiger is moving. He is moving from one place to another. Vivid. Vivid means clear and bright, or we can say colorful. So this vivid word has been used here for the bright and clear skin of the tiger, which is a beautiful combination of orange and black. Stripes. Stripes here means long narrow bands, or we can say the long narrow lines which are black in color present on tiger's skin. Pads. Pads here means the under surface of tiger's foot, or we can say the paws of the tiger. Here in this picture you can see I have given you the picture of tiger's paws. Rage. Rage here means extreme anger, uncontrollable anger. Now I will take two lines together. So let's see. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage. So he here refers to the tiger. The tiger has been personified here. Stalks means moving slowly, and here the tiger is moving very slowly in his cage. Vivid stripes. Vivid refers to the clear and bright color, and stripes means long narrow lines in a single color. It means the beautiful fur or the bright skin of the tiger, which is a bright combination of two colors. As I told you earlier also, this is a combination of orange and black. It means we have been given the description of tiger's beautiful appearance. He looks very elegant. I hope you might have got the meaning. Here we have been given the description of such a beautiful skin of the tiger. The few steps of his cage means now this tiger has got such a beautiful personality but he can take only few steps because he is confined, he is behind bars. He moves from one point to another. We can say that due to being confined in a small cell, he is just measuring the length of the cage. Next, on Pets of Velvet Quiet in his quiet rage. Now, velvet here means a soft, smooth, and silky cloth or fabric. So, here the poet is comparing the pose of the tiger with velvet cloth, and he says that when tiger moves, he does not make any sound. He is very quiet at that time. Just because the tiger's soul, it is as soft as velvet cloth. So, no one can hear the sound of tiger's footsteps when he walks. Then he says in his quiet rage. Rage here is uncontrollable anger, extreme anger. Quiet means peace and silence. So both these words are quite opposite in nature. But we all know that when someone is angry, he tries to harm other and create disturbance. But this thing is not true in case of this tiger. Well, this tiger is quiet because he cannot do anything. He is behind bars. And this quiet rage is his hidden anger. Therefore, he is moving silently. So, here, so far, we have read in this stanza the tiger has a beautiful personality. The poet gives us the description of the tiger who is confined in a cage. He is in a zoo now. He said that he had a limited area of movement. He takes small steps in his cage and we cannot hear the sound of his footsteps because the surface part of his feet, of tiger's feet, is as soft as a velvet fabric. He controls his anger because he cannot do anything and moves silently there. So this was the description of stanza 1. Now we discuss the poetic devices used in stanza 1. First of all, the rhyme scheme. We have the same rhyme scheme throughout the poem. In each and every stanza, it is the same, that is A, B, C, B. Here we see that cage and rage make a rhyme together. So, stripes is A, cage is B, quiet is C, and as rage is rhyming with cage, so we can label it as B. So the rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B. Another poetic device which is very prominent throughout the poem is personification. The tiger has been personified by referring as he. Now, what is personification? It means to give an inanimate or non-human forms some human qualities. Because here the poet is referring tiger as he everywhere, so this is personification. Another device used here is metaphor. Metaphor means indirect comparison. Well, here the softness of the tiger's paws is compared to the softness of velvet fabric. Another device which we can see in this stanza is enjambment. Enjambment is used when the same sentence continues into next line without the use of any punctuation mark. Here we can pay attention to line 1. In line 1, he stalks in his vivid stripes. After stripes, we do not have any full stop, comma or any punctuation mark. This line runs into next line, that is the few steps of his cage. So when a line runs into next line without any full stop or comma, this is known as enjambment. Another device throughout this poem is imagery. Imagery works when poet creates a picture in the mind of a reader. When poet talks about the words like vivid, stripes, stalks, few steps, all these words create an image in the mind of the reader. And the reader starts thinking that a tiger is taking steps with his bright skin in the cage. This is what we call imagery. Then another device used here is consonance. Consonance is used when there is repetition of consonant sound, which may be at any position, in the beginning, in the middle, or at the final position in any particular line. In line 1, stalks his stripes. Here, s sound is very prominent. Similarly, another poetic device used here is assonance. Assonance means the repetition of vowel sounds. Here again, in line 1, in his vivid stripes. In all these words, I vowel is very prominent. Well, another device which we can notice in this stanza is oxymoron. In oxymoron, we use two adjectives which are quite opposite in nature. Here, the poet says, quiet rage. Quiet here means peace and silence, whereas rage means extreme anger. So, both the words or the adjective here opposite in nature. They are quite opposite here. Therefore, oxymoron device is being used here. Well, we have discussed all the literary devices used in stanza 1. Well, in the next stanza, the poet says, he should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass, near the water hole where plump deer pass. So, first of all, let's see the word meanings. Sliding here means moving or coming slowly. Hole here means pool or a water tank, or it may be any water body or water source. Plump here means chubby or healthy or fatty, it may be fatty. Lurking here means to be hidden, as to wait for your prey. So now here the poet is talking about a tiger who lives in the forest. He says that the tiger who is in the zoo, he should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass, near the water hole where plump deer pass. It means that the tiger in the zoo should live a life like the tiger in the forest. Here we have been told about the personality of a tiger who is in the forest, or what sort of life he lives. The tiger in the forest hides himself near a water hole. Water hole here means a pool or a water body area, which I have already told you. He hides himself in such a way so that no animal can see him. It means he hides himself in shadow of long grass and he moves slowly through the grass. And when a plump deer means a fatty deer, he comes to drink water to quench his thirst. He attacks his prey. And suddenly he catches that deer, and this deer is the favorite food of the tiger. He loves to eat deer. So here we have come to know that a tiger lives a life which is quite different from the life of a tiger who lives in the zoo. Now let's pay attention to the literary devices used in stanza 2. First of all, again the rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme here is same in all these stanzas, that is A, B, C, B. So here the last words in each lines are shadow, grass, hole and pass. So shadow is A, grass is B, hole is C and pass is B. Because here pass, it makes a rhyme with grass, so it can be labeled as B. Another device used here is enjambment. This device is used when a line continues into next line without any punctuation mark. So here look at line 2 and 3, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. At the end of line 2 and 3, there is no punctuation mark. The lines run into next line. The full stop is given at the end of the last line only. So this is known as enjambment. There is one more device used here is alliteration. Well, alliteration is used when two or more closely connected words have a same consonant sound in the beginning of the words. In last line we can see where plump deer pass. So here the words like plump and pass, they have the same consonant sound, that is per. Per sound is here, and this sound is in the beginning of the words. Like in plump, per sound is there, and in pass also per sound is there. Another device is imagery. This device has also been used throughout the poem. The phrases like lurking in shadow, long grass, water hole and plump deer compel the readers to create an image in their mind. And next device used here is personification, as the tiger is referred as he here. So this device is also used throughout the poem. Here we have discussed all the literary devices given in stanza 2. Well, in stanza 3, the poet says he should be snarling roundhouses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. So first of all, discuss the word meanings. Snarls. Snarls here means makes an angry and warning sound. So here in this picture you can see how angry this tiger looks. Baring here means exposing and uncovering, or it is showing also. So in this picture again we can see how the tiger is showing his teeth. Fangs is used for the sharp tooth of animals. So here in the picture we can see the teeth of tiger. These are canine basically. Canine teeth helps a wild animal to tear his food. Terrorizing means frightening or causing fear. So here in this picture we can see how this tiger is making the other people afraid just because of his snarling. Now let's see the paraphrasing or explanation. He should be snarling roundhouses at the jungle's edge. Snarling, as I have told you, this is to make an angry and warning sound. So here the poet says that the tiger who is in the jungle, so what sort of life he would be living. We have been given here a possibility, and the poet feels that the tiger in the jungle, he would be snarling. Snarling here means he would be making an angry sound, and he would be roaming around the houses which are built at the end of the jungle. So at the jungle's edge. Edge here means where the jungle ends. So there are some people, those who build their houses near the edge of the jungle. So here this tiger, he goes to that place and he makes an angry sound because he wants to make those people feel afraid. Baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. Now here this tiger, what he is bearing means showing. He is showing his white fangs. So this white fangs has been used for the white teeth, white sharp teeth of the tiger. He is not only showing his teeth but his claws also. And in this way, this tiger is trying to make the villagers feel afraid. Here we can see that the tiger who is in the forest, he is very powerful. He is not helpless at all. And in this way, he lives his life in freedom. He lives his life the way he wants. And he is doing the things which he really likes to do. Just as he is roaming here and there, he is snarling or growling, or we can say making an angry sound. And he is showing his white teeth and claws, and in this way he is making the villagers feel afraid. But on the other hand, the tiger who is in the zoo, he is quite helpless. He cannot do all the things which are being done by the tiger who is in a forest. So this was the explanation of stanza 3. Let's pay attention to the literary devices used in stanza 3. So first of all, pay attention to the rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme used here is AB, CB. It is same as it is used in other stanzas also. So now just focus on the final words used in each sentences. So the final words here are houses, edge, close, village. So here houses becomes A, edge is B, close is C, and village, as it makes a rhyme with edge, so we can label it as B. So in this way rhyme scheme becomes AB, CB. Another device used here is enjambment. Enjambment is used when a line continues to next line without punctuation mark. So here we can pay attention to line number 1 also. It says he should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge. So here we can see there is no full stop, no comma, no punctuation mark after houses, and this line runs into next line. So in this way poetic device enjambment has been used here. Another device which is used here is onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is used for the words which denote sound. So here a word has been used, that is snarling, and this word is used for the sound of a tiger, when tiger makes an angry sound. So there are some other words also, just as though these words are not in this stanza, but for example I just want to tell you the words like crash, splash, bang, crunch, boom, or the telephone bells rings. So in this way we can say that all these sound words make a poetic device which is known as onomatopoeia. And here in this stanza, the word which has been used here for sound is snarling only. Now another device which is used here is assonance. Assonance is used when there is a repetition of vowel sounds. So here in this stanza we can see two vowels are very prominent, O and I. And the words where O vowel has been repeatedly used are should, around and houses. And similarly, there is I vowel which becomes very important in some words, and these words are bearing, his, white, his. So in this way we can say that assonance poetic device has been used here. Another device which is used here is consonance. Consonance is basically the use of a consonant sound. So here we can see so sound is very important in some words, and these words have been given to us in line number 3, and these words are his, fangs, his, close. And this consonant sound, it may be at any position. It may be in the beginning, in the middle, or at the final position. So in these words we can see that this sound is given at final position in each and every word. So here consonance poetic device has been used. I have discussed all the literary devices given in stanza 3. We'll now see the explanation of fourth stanza. Fourth stanza here is, but he's locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. So first of all, let's see the word meanings. Concrete. Concrete here means a building material which is made from broken stones, sand, bricks, cement, water, etc. Ignoring here means not paying any attention. So here in first picture you can see the tiger, he is in the zoo and he is not paying any attention to the people, those who have come to see him. Now I'll take two lines together and explain them first. He is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars. So here in these lines the poet talks about the tiger who is in a zoo, and he says the tiger is locked in a cage which is made of concrete. So concrete here means something which is very solid and built with strong building material, such as cement and brick, as I told you earlier also. So it means the cage in which the tiger is captured is so strong that the tiger cannot think about coming out of it. And just because he is in this cell, so his strength has also been locked. Though he is one of the most powerful creature, but due to being in captive situation in the cage, this power has become useless. He cannot show or express his anger on anyone. Now the next two lines, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. So here the tiger is stalking. Stalking means moving slowly, and he is moving from one corner to another. He is moving to and fro in his cage. In other words, we can simply say that he is measuring the length of the cage. Or we can say that he has a very limited area for movement, as the cage is very small, where he cannot do anything except moving from one place to another. Moreover, he is not interested in the visitors. As the tiger is in the zoo, therefore many people have come there to see him. But the tiger does not feel happy. He is not happy at all. He has a restricted life. So he does not pay any attention to the visitors or the people who have come for their entertainment. Here we have come to know that the tiger is very helpless and he feels powerless. He cannot enjoy his freedom, which is essential for his natural growth. So here I have just given you the explanation of stanza 4. Now let's see the literary devices used in stanza 4. So first of all, again the rhyme scheme which is same in all the stanzas, that is A, B, C, B. So here the last words are cell, bars, cage, visitors. So we can see here that cell is A, bar is B, cage is C, and visitors, as it makes rhyme with bars, so it will become B. So in this way, we can label all the words as A, B, C, B. Another device used here is personification, which is being used throughout the poem. And here the tiger has been referred as he, therefore we can say personification has been used. Another device is assonance. As in assonance, we can see the repetition of vowel sounds. Here the words like he, locked, concrete, cell. Given in line 1, we can see that there is repetition of E vowel. So it becomes assonance. Another device used here is consonance. Consonance here means the repetition of consonant sound. So here S sound becomes very prominent when we say his strength bars. So in line 2, his strength bars, here we can see the repetition of S sound. Another device used here is alliteration. Alliteration is used when two or more consecutives or closely connected words gives consonant sound. So here we can see in line 2, the words like behind bars, they begin with a consonant sound, that is B. B sound is there. So in this way we can say that alliteration is being used. So here we have discussed all the literary devices given in stanza 4. Now let's see the explanation of stanza 5. Here the poet says, he hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So first of all, let's see the word meanings. Patrolling. Patrolling here means to go around an area at regular time to check whether it is safe or not. Or we can say like that, to guard or to whistle an area. Second word here is brilliant. Brilliant means very bright. So first of all, let's take two lines together. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars. He here again used for the tiger, and now you all have understood that the tiger is personified by referring as he everywhere. Here the tiger is in the zoo. He hears the sounds of patrolling cars. It is night time. All the patrolling cars are moving there, and these cars are moving there for the safety and protection of all the animals. And as it is getting dark, so this is time for the last and final round. But here tiger is still awake and he does not feel like sleeping in the small cage. Therefore, at that time, this tiger hears the voice of these last patrolling cars. Now the next two lines are, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Now the tiger with his shining eyes keeps staring at the shining stars and wants to be free like them. Here, as the stars are in the open sky, and this open sky is the natural environment for the stars. Similarly, the tiger wants to roam around in the forest, that is his natural habitat, and this is the place where he belongs to. But due to confined in the cage, he is powerless and watching helplessly at the stars with the desire to be free like them. So here this is the explanation of stanza 5. Now let's pay attention to the literary devices used in stanza 5. So first of all, it is rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B, and it is the same as it was there in previous stanzas. So let's pay attention to the final words in each and every line. Final words are night, cars, eyes, stars. So here we can see that night becomes A, cars B, eyes C, and here stars, it makes rhyme with cars, so we can label it as B. So in this way rhyme scheme becomes like A, B, C, B. Now the next device used here is enjambment, and as I have told you earlier also that enjambment is used when a line runs into next line without use of any punctuation mark. So similarly here we can see that in line number 3, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So after eyes there is no punctuation mark and this line runs into next line. So therefore we can say that enjambment device has been used here. Another device which is used here is alliteration. And alliteration is used when there is a consonant sound, and this consonant sound may be in the consecutive words or the closely connected words. So here we can see in line 1 in the beginning words, he hears. So here her sound become very prominent. In this way we can say that alliteration has been used. Another device used here is assonance, and assonance is a repetition of vowel sounds. So here we can see some words with his brilliant, and all these words have been given in line number 3, and here you can see that I vowel has become very prominent. So in this way assonance has been used here. There is one more device, that is repetition, and here we can see two words are there, and these words are brilliant and brilliant. Brilliant in line number 3 and brilliant in line number 4. So here we can say that this is repetition, and this repetition has been used to give a nice impact to the poem. So in this way we have discussed all the literary devices used in stanza 5. Now let's discuss the central theme used in this poem. Here we see two things which are very important. The first one is freedom, and the second thing that we talk about here is the rights of animals. So every human or animal loves freedom. No one likes to be imprisoned. In the poem, the tiger is not free. He has been encaged and his liberty has been snatched away. He cannot show his power and courage as he used to show in the forest. He cannot roam around, thus he has rage in his eyes. But he is encased, hence he cannot do anything and thus remains quiet. So he is having hidden anger inside. The poet is also throwing light on the rights of animals. Man has encaged wild animals for his entertainment. It is unjust because every living organism must have right to liberty and freedom. In the case of tiger, he has been forcibly put in the cage. We are not in favor of keeping the animals in the zoo for fun or entertainment. People must be sensitized towards animals. They deserve freedom like us, and they should be kept in their natural habitat. So here we have discussed the central theme of the poem also, and this is the end of this poem. I hope you might have liked it. If you have really liked it, then please press like button and subscribe my channel. Thank you very much for listening patiently.